But let me introduce everybody first and start the whole thing. So this is Don, and I used to have a camera, and I don't know where I'm supposed to look. I'm just going to talk to you guys. It's Don Clark from FileMaker Pro Gurus and FM Database Consulting, and we're at DevCon 2016 here at the Cosmo, and nobody's breaking down the door. And right now what I have is Tim Cimbura and Brenda and Nick from Cimbura.com. And somebody else told me not to use the .com for their name. So, but see,
for us it works.
For that works. And you guys, you had a unconference thing today, didn't you?
We had 2 sessions during DevCon. We had on the first day, Nick and I spoke about WordPress and FileMaker integration, and then today there was another GIS and FileMaker integration.
Wow! Tell me some more about both of those.
You want to say?
Well, it was really CMS and WordPress integration because we're working on a Drupal module as well. So we have this thing that we've kind of extracted out of a bunch of client integration projects called BrilliantSync. And we found we were doing the same thing over and over and over again, and that's when you say, well, let's build a module.
Right.
Or a plugin in WordPress parlance. And so we have this WordPress code that runs and essentially is the interpreter between WordPress and the relational database that FileMaker understands. So lets the FileMaker guys live in their world, and the WordPress guys live in their world, and the data flows back and forth as we need it to.
Now, is that something you were going, when we talked about this once earlier?
We talked about a year ago, and we had another year of refining it and making it better.
Is it going to be a product now?
You know, now it's still not in a state where it's off the shelf and easy to just,
Okay.
I mean, so.
But now you have this great tool to work with.
Yeah, we have the tool, and we can value price that because we don't have to develop it from scratch
every time.
So we can more easily do these kind of projects. And the great thing about it is that people can come to us with an existing FileMaker database and an existing WordPress site that don't talk to each other at all, and we can set up that connection very quickly, and then if they want to continue programming in FileMaker, which they will, they're using ESS, so the WordPress tables end up looking like an external table in the FileMaker database, and they can write synchronization routines however they need to.
Okay.
So you can push data, you can pull data, or you can sync it both ways, depending on your needs.
And where we're kind of doing more productization is in that we have add-on modules. So we've got a WooCommerce add-on module that we just kind of finished up, and so that's so once you've licensed BrilliantSync, if you want to connect to WooCommerce, we have this add-on, and unfortunately, that's one of those things where we can't just be like, well, here you go. It's magic because nobody structures their products the same way in FileMaker, and so we have to figure out a mapping scheme on how your FileMaker products are going to map to WooCommerce products. And so really it's less a product and more of a framework, but it's modularized to the point where we want to create connections to all the popular WordPress plugins so that we don't have to write everything custom. And so if you're using the standard e-commerce, which is WooCommerce, if you're using one of the more popular form solutions, which is Gravity Forms, we have a module already built. And so that integration can go way faster than if we had to start everything from scratch and map everything. It's simply map your data into BrilliantSync, and the rest of it's taken care of. So
where this really plays well is anytime that you have anonymous users for your FileMaker database, you want to make them available either to the public and scale it. You can use WordPress on the front end for that, and then FileMaker is your back-end admin interface that you can.
So they can add products to WooCommerce, for example, and manage products and quantities on hands and so on and so forth.
And it's really not just anonymous users. Like the simplest use case is it was a day camp, or it was a week camp, and it was a horse camp, I think. And they had a registration form, and so people would register online, pay online, then they re-entered it in FileMaker. And so we came along with BrilliantSync, and now all that data flows directly into FileMaker.
Okay.
I guess what I mean by anonymous users is
not FileMaker
not
users.
FileMaker,
Not FileMaker users. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
they're like if you're doing FLT, you wouldn't have to pay.
No, exactly,
for an
because it's
additional
going to be a CWP essentially. It's going to
Right.
be, it's going to be like a web user.
Well,
But it's not a CWP, that's the beauty.
Yes,
It's-
yes,
They're
it's
not,
mhm.
it's not relying on FileMaker server being up 100% of the time. The sync process can happen whenever FileMaker is available.
Mhm.
And so if your FileMaker server could go down for 8 hours, your website will continue to take orders
Mhm.
and work as if nothing has ever happened. And when FileMaker comes back up, it just resynchronizes.
Okay.
So it's,
So you got some error correction code
we've
in there too, so-
decoupled
Yeah.
so that you don't have that reliance on CWP and even that load on your FileMaker server where, like, let's say you're registering for a large event like DevCon and you're going to have 2,500 attendees or, you know, how many thousands of people going and hammering this registration form that's querying data from FileMaker and then pushing data into FileMaker. Well, what happens when FileMaker, the script server stops?
Yeah.
Well, people can't register.
Mhm.
Well, with BrilliantSync, they can register all day long and then you just pull them in later.
Mhm.
And especially that's very useful if there's an on-premise server, you know,
Mhm.
versus, because they tend to be less reliable because the internet connection to that location might not be reliable.
Or
So-
not redundant, like would be
Yeah.
in a data center.
Right.
Well, yes, true.
Yeah. What was the next thing I was going to say? Oh, so I was going to say, then like a more advanced solution that we just finished up, which was the WooCommerce, was we have all these users on the WordPress side that are the customers of the website. And they sync with the customer table in FileMaker, but they're not FileMaker users.
Right.
So, and that's a bidirectional sync. So somebody, you can update their address in FileMaker, or they can update it themselves on the web, and then the process synchronizes so that it's all a single source of truth.
And I assume it has priorities for when the last one was or the greatest one or that kind of thing.
Yeah, we can determine which one
Yeah.
wins, or we can display a dialogue and say, hey, it changed on both ends, which one do you want to keep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could even use a product like MirrorSync to do them because they're just tables.
Yeah.
The other component of that is ESS doesn't support container
Right.
fields. So in the case of container fields, we're commonly storing that in Amazon S3 storage, and then you're storing the URL in FileMaker and the URL in to access it in WordPress.
Right.
So it's a shared storage.
Okay.
The beauty of that is S3 allows you to store vast amounts of data for next to nothing.
Yes.
It supports encryption on disk, similar to encrypted external storage, and it's private. You know, if you just FTP it up to a web server, it's if somebody knows the URL, they can find it.
Mhm.
With S3, you can store it privately and then generate an expiring URL for FileMaker or WordPress to grab it, so that the file is never made public. It's
So using
only-
S3.
Yeah, we're using
Okay.
S3 extensively.
Mhm.
For the stuff that both need to access, we push it up to S3 because then FileMaker can access it when it needs it, and WordPress can access it when it needs it, and it's not reliant. Once again, we've decoupled it because
Mhm.
S3 doesn't go down.
No.
And so, and
No,
and
let's
that
hope
also
not.
that reduces the load on your FileMaker server significantly. I mean, if you had very large image files, you're only storing thumbnails on the actual FileMaker server, and they
Mhm.
could be external container fields as well.
Right.
And then,
Yes, let's keep things fast.
And you get all
It
the
sounds like a great product. I mean, it did last year too when we talked about it, and earlier this year I think we spoke on the phone. So
Yeah.
that's a great thing. And so tell me about the GIS.
GIS. We have two other guys on our team, Andy and Michael,
Mhm.
who did that presentation. Both of them are experts in GIS. They met getting their master's degree at the university. And so, yeah, they knocked their presentation out of the park today. It was so fun to see visualization of data that you've never seen that kind of thing in FileMaker before. Primarily using the web viewer and a whole bunch of GIS tools so
Mhm.
that you can drill down, and one of the examples was like a real estate kind of thing, or, well, the big example at the end was looking at school data in various regions and being able to even draw an outline on a map and have FileMaker query only the ones that fall within that outline of
Wow.
area. So it's very visual. It's very, and then you can zoom in on that map and you can see points. You can see photos, and they're all click on them, and it sends information back to FileMaker and stuff. So it's very integrated.
And this was these were both unconference things? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, primarily because didn't have everything done in January to submit.
Yeah, you have to submit it and get it approved well in advance, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and a primary purpose of wanting to bring it to DevCon is to start the conversation
Yes.
and find other like-minded people who are curious about, how can we use mapping better? How can we get data to be visual? And how could we even make our systems more beautiful and useful to our clients? And so it's an emerging technology. It is something that's very exciting and very innovative. And so, to try to find those people who also have a mutual interest and start to create a community here inside FileMaker that loves this type of work. That's really one of the goals that we had for the conference.
Exciting.
So we're going to have both those presentations we videotaped and should have on our website in a few weeks probably.
I'm
By the
knowing
time-
you're mailing this, but I'll keep an eye out for them.
Yeah.
I'd like to, curate them,
Yeah.
share them again, so.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So did you go any other things here while you're here? Did you get to any
You
other?
know, it has been
presentations?
hard to hit the primary sessions, but the ones we've been to, definitely the keynote
Yeah.
is always exciting to,
Mhm.
to see what some of the secret features are of future versions.
Yes, that we can't talk about here, but boy, it'd be wonderful if FileMaker was going the direction of connecting it more to the world with,
Yeah.
some of the more common things out there like JSON and curl and, FM REST and stuff
Yeah.
like that, those types of technologies. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's on the radar,
Yeah.
because it needs to be.
Yeah.
We need to be connecting to all these different services, so.
So that was exciting.
Did you get any other
What else have we gotten to?
because I'm trying to hear more which ones I need to go to, because I missed all of them pretty much. I got to one, and it was one it was the best of the 5 that were showing at that time, but it wasn't
Yeah.
one of the
Well,
ones I really wanted to go to. So.
We have 10 people here at DevCon, so that's the advantage is that we can talk to our friends and get reconnect
Oh, there
with
you go.
people.
Okay.
And then we have kind of divide and conquer, and
Mhm.
people can go to sessions, and we have a FM Pug group in Minnesota,
Mhm.
and we'll do a DevCon recap in September, when we reconvene for the new year.
Mhm.
So that'll be fun.
That's really neat. I've heard some really good ones. One of them was this morning for like hooking into Slack and stuff like that, tying FileMaker to Slack, and I can't remember who did it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's one I want to look at.
Yeah. Was that a general API session?
It was
I
It was
believe.
FileMaker Web Services. It
Web
was talking about productivity tools and.
productivity tools,
Yeah.
a lot of our clients are using those kind of tools now,
Yeah.
so now we can tie that stuff into our databases.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that I thought was something I would like to hear, but.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
use Slack pretty extensively.
And we have a FileMaker, if we forget to punch out for the day, we get a Slack notification telling us you didn't close your time record.
Yeah.
So we've got Slack integration. We're working on some Basecamp, or some enhanced Basecamp integration, because that's what our main project management tool.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're working on, just for our own internal business, connecting all these tools together so they can talk.
Yeah,
Yeah, we like to dog food, using the tools that we build other systems with internally, and we found Basecamp to be very helpful in tracking communications and things, especially with clients that don't have FileMaker on the other side.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and so we've just created even links between our FileMaker project management tool that tracks all the billing and that kind of thing. And Basecamp is primarily communications and emails that get tracked and to-dos. And so we have URLs that connect them both back and forth. So you can click on a URL in Basecamp and it brings us back to the project record in FileMaker directly. So-
okay. See, this is some of the boring stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't find that boring, when you're optimizing your business so you can do a better job with your clients. That to me is something that's a necessary step for a business to take. And Michael Rochard, did you meet Michael? when you
Yeah,
first
we
came in?
know.
Yeah. And I were talking about that earlier today, which is a lot of the tools and the contents that is out there, people don't pay a lot of attention to because they probably don't have time
Mhm.
more than anything else. But then they also aren't inclined to read something that's not technical in nature. But the smarter businessmen have to pay attention to that kind of stuff, or hire somebody to take care of that kind of stuff for them. So.
Well, the industry, you're constantly learning. I mean, there's not a day where we're not pointing out some new tool, it seems, or some new web service that showed up someplace.
Mhm.
It's hard to keep up even just with our Slack channel where we have 10 people who love technology and consume a vast variety of sources of information.
Oh, yeah.
Just posting, look at this cool thing, look at that cool thing. We've got web and FileMaker channels, we've got Internet of Things channels in our Slack where we're just talking about where technology is going and trying to figure out what are we going to bring into our business, either something we sell to clients, something we use internally, or just something that's fun.
Mhm.
We had this running joke in the office where we were seeing way too many beach balls, and so our main FileMaker developer on our internal solution, we put a beach ball above his chair. And that was funny, and then it became a motorized beach ball, and that was more fun. And then it became an Arduino-powered motorized beach ball, so that we could issue curl commands and start and stop the beach ball. And then it became a Slack bot that you could issue a Slack command, which called curl, which turned the beach ball on and off. And then it became a Death Star. So, it's like...
What's the next iteration?
And we demoed this at the FM Pug meeting, and we had a video camera so you could see that the beach ball was spinning in
At our office
Stopping,
across town.
via video, live stream.
But that's the kind of thing where it's like we're geeks. We love to play with
Mhm.
technology, but then suddenly we're gonna one day we're gonna go. We can use that in something.
Yeah.
Or we just learned about Arduino. We learned about node scripting, or that's how you learn as a geek. You play with the technology until you find a way to monetize
So
it.
we've got iBeacons around the office.
Oh, do you?
Yep. Yep. And so now that Go supports those, we're playing with what can we use those for our clients as far as internal location and.
And you got the new office. You said you're moving into a new office.
Yeah,
So-
it's really exciting. It's going to be. We've completely outgrown the space that we're in. We've been.
How big
there
was the
for-
space you were in?
Oh,
Less than 2,000
Yeah,
square
And
that's-
you're gonna, so triple the amount of space you have.
yeah. We need some room to grow, and we're just on top of each other right now. And
How many people work there now?
we have 15 total people.
and growing.
Yeah.
And growing.
Yeah, so
Glad to
it's
hear
really
business is
exciting.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to manage a lot of stuff.
There are a few pieces that are moving at the same time, yes. Yes.
Well, keep up the good work. Is there more you wanted to share? I mean, we,
Has anyone talked about the Women of FileMaker
No.
luncheon?
please tell us.
Well, this year,
Oh, I'm not allowed to go, so.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You peeked in.
I had the opportunity to go last year when I came, and
Mhm.
it was such a warm room filled with very smart and talented people who were trying to navigate a technology conference.
Mhm.
Many of them also for the first time. There were so many people in the room who were maybe thinking of FileMaker as a career, looking for certification, as well as really advanced devs that are in-house, and
Mhm.
so it was just a really neat mix, and there's just a lot of sharing and caring in that group. So it was.
How big was the luncheon this year?
I know that they were prepared for 180, and I think that
That's not bad at all.
came pretty close to filling that room out. So,
Wow.
there's a lot of activity and desire to continue to build that community, build it up and create resources for women who are seeking careers in FileMaker. So there is a Facebook page that, if you are interested, you can go out and look for Women of FileMaker.
Am I allowed to look at that?
You can look at it. But, it's a great way to find resources.
I think
for-
that's really neat.
For learning,
Yeah.
or, there's just so much to know, and you have to be connected to other people in order to find the best fit
Mhm.
resource for you, so.
Well, and you're raising some potential future women of FileMaker, right?
Yeah, I wrote an article in my blog recently about teaching my daughter how to build a
Oh,
FileMaker database.
I missed that.
And that was fun exercise.
How old is she?
She's 12 years old. So, yeah, and if she could become one of our new interns in the future, that would be awesome.
It would be great, yeah.
But she wanted to track, we were trying to figure out what could we track for her
Uh-huh.
that's important to her life, and she plays Disney Infinity game on the Apple TV
Uh-huh.
and has a whole collection of characters, and so we scratched out a database in a restaurant on a napkin and said, what kind of things you, and then we took an hour, and that's showing the power of FileMaker,
Right.
that within an hour you could create a usable solution on an iPad too. I mean,
Mhm.
that she could use. And then she spent about 2 hours going out to the websites and grabbing photos of each of the characters and inserting them into the fields and track. I mean, so it was more time in data entry than it was
In development.
in actually building it. But it was a
And that piqued her interest.
oh
The
yeah.
next day, she was asking, Dad, what can I do for the company?
Wow.
So it was pretty cute.
It was a great way for us to connect too.
All
I mean,
right.
it's like, you know, so she understood. She said, "Now I understand a lot more what you do." You know, it's
Okay.
like I'm not just sitting in front of the computer all day staring at numbers and stuff. She has
This is
some,
what it appears we're doing.
yeah, which is at some level what we're doing.
And we say some nasty words sometimes, you know, or.
Well, and you know, the thing is that everybody enters learning differently. There's so many learning styles, and for our daughter, it's sitting next to her dad and watching him code and figure things out and show her what that can be. And the moment she sees it, she can have a vision of her own. And I think that's just really a great reminder for all of us that have experience, that there are people who need to sit alongside us and have conversation.
Mentoring.
And mentor.
Yeah, and it is always fun to watch when somebody, you see a spark lit, and I think that's what drives teachers.
Yep.
My wife's just a retired teacher now, but she always had every year several kids, and amongst the classes that just lit up. That's people she keeps in contact with, most of them, after they're gone on to college and everything else. So that's kind of neat that you did that. I had a Gordon Cox from Western Australia was here and telling me he has a 10-year-old grandson. And his son was sitting here too, Jimmy. And he says, Jimmy just started in the business not too long ago, but his 10-year-old grandson wants to take over the family business. And he might keep Jimmy, his dad, I guess, or maybe his dad, I don't know. He said, might keep him on board. I don't know yet.
That's how I originally
So
started.
10-year-old, so.
I originally started in computers because my dad was a math teacher,
Mhm.
and this was when the Apple II first came out. He had one of the first ones, and he brought it home for the summer. So I had the exclusive use of this computer for the summer.
Wow.
I was 15 years old or something, and
You're a prime target, yeah.
I just went to town. I mean, I remember one of the first things I thought was so amazing was writing a program that could count from 1 to 1,000,000 in 30 seconds. And it's like, how could it count that fast? You know?
Well, first I want to know one thing. How did you get started with FileMaker? Before we do anything
I
else?
met this guy. I'm
Okay.
a WordPress developer. I was
Okay.
a full-time freelance WordPress developer. I'd been in the nonprofit sector for over a decade. Started in the classic ASP world, writing custom CMSs from scratch, and then found WordPress and realized I don't ever have to write a CMS again. I can just customize it.
Right.
But then we met at a WordPress meetup, and my wife knows Brenda and kept saying, you need to meet this Tim Cimbura guy. And I was like, well, okay. And then we met, and it was like, I like this guy. And then we started working together and doing a lot of FileMaker integrations when I was essentially a client of Cimbura, where they were a client of mine.
Subcontract.
Yeah. So we were working together on projects, and we kind of both had hit that place where we wanted to grow, and we said, well, we could grow separately or we could grow together, and so we essentially merged our companies.
Oh, okay.
And so we've got FileMaker and WordPress almost equally represented within our company, and a lot of people don't know that about us.
I did not know that.
They look at Cimbura.com and they think FileMaker, and say, no, we've got pure web projects going through our business that don't touch FileMaker. We've got
So you are business partners now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
and then
That escaped me.
yeah, and then our GIS guys came on, and they're working on building out the GIS leg of the company. They're both web developers, and one's FileMaker and web developer. So we've got just this incredible cross-pollination of skills on our team, and so we've got people working on web stuff, web developers helping FileMaker developers learn web technologies, vice versa, and then the GIS guys are teaching us all about GIS and the possibilities there beyond, I put a Google map on it.
Yeah.
It goes so much deeper than that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so our office and the cross-pollination of knowledge has been phenomenal to watch over the last, we're coming on 2 years in October. It's like no environment I've ever been a part of, because in the past I was part of we had editorial and design, and it was a traditional web team.
Mhm.
And this is a all tech team with varying disciplines. And so the web guy or the FileMaker guys learn something new every day. The web guys learn something new every day. The GIS guys learn something new every day. And just being that this team has been a phenomenal experience, and we're just getting started.
And that's why we're investing heavily in a space, because the amount of, we could work remotely from our homes, we could,
Mhm.
but the amount of magic that happens when we're together and you overhear somebody say something, gives you a good idea immediately, and that it just has so much value for
Or
us.
somebody says, wonder how I would do this, and somebody goes, well, use this tool. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. You saved me an hour of Googling.
Yeah.
So, because I know
Collaboration.
tools, Tim knows tools, Michael knows tools, and so I could go and find one, or they could be like, I use this one, it worked great, you should try it too, or don't use that one, that was a disaster. And just the knowledge in our team is just, it astounds me every day, the stuff that they come up with, or somebody goes home and works on a weekend project and come back and goes, look what I built. And I didn't even know it was possible, and I've been in tech for almost 20 years, so.
Well, the rate of change in tech is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I get to wrangle them.
Is it like herding cats?
Oh, they're much better than cats.
Yes.
But, trying to keep people in their sweet spot,
Mhm.
having them do what they were wired up to do and keep them focused in that arena, and taking away things that aren't their fuel. I really
Smart.
see that as my
Very smart.
objective, to create a way to remove the obstacles from their life so that they can do their best work.
Brilliant work.
Brilliant work. And, as you're looking at building a company, there's just so many things that you have to be aware of. And I think that there's, a good leader is looking at how they inspire and lead and put vision forward, but they're also looking at, do we have the right insurance? Do we have the right technology law in place? I think that's one of the things that I think there's a huge opportunity to discuss in the FileMaker community is there's a lot to be learned about in the United States. The law with technology is changing rapidly. There are a lot of terms of agreement, and there's a lot of people who aren't aware of them. And then another focus that we have is in compliance. And so there's a lot of people out there who say they work in HIPAA or they work with FERPA, they're working with other highly compliant agencies. And yet we know from the investigation and research that there's a lot more that needs to be done to be as legally compliant with your technology as possible,
Mm-hmm.
because you are on the line.
Yes.
So be wise.
And there are businesses out there that, for example, are using FileMaker where they require HIPAA compliance. And just because of the nature of how it developed internally, they never really put a lot of thought or effort into
Mhm.
actually being HIPAA compliant, which is not just FileMaker technology, which that's part of it, but it's also the business process of
Mhm.
who has access to that, and
Yeah.
how do you control your workstations and all those kind of things. So that's something that we have several projects going on right now where we're working directly with companies that require HIPAA compliance. So
Okay. Yeah, that's critical. So, well, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about what you were saying with the law. So I'm going to look a little bit more into that with the changing technology agreements and so on. I mean, I've looked at some of those things.
Especially-
I don't do a lot of HIPAA compliant stuff, so I don't worry about
Especially
that.
for people who are looking to launch their consulting career,
Mhm.
they need to be aware of what the law holds them accountable for. And it's very wise investment to talk to people who know more than you about
Always.
law.
Mhm.
Then that's not always a lawyer. It can be other business people, but you should have the conversation and make yourself aware of the liabilities in place as a consultant, especially with FileMaker.
Okay. I did not know that. See, I learn something new every day too,
Yep.
on every front.
Sure.
So, it's been a pretty good conference. Learned a lot, and I'm glad you guys stopped by because I learned more today than I had learned. So,
Any idea where we're going next year?
they'll announce that tonight, don't they?
I know, but
I'm going to miss
we're
it.
taking bets on it now.
Oh.
We're in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but we can't tell. I'm not going to be able to make the closing conference tonight, so I'll have to be in suspense for a little while until
Sure.
I have to send you guys an email or something. I'll let you know when I put this
We'll
thing
probably
up. It'll be
tweet
a
it,
while.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and they'll announce it. It's not going to be one of those secrets we can't
Yeah.
talk about. I don't think, is it?
No. They want people to come.
Would you like it to be here again? I know some people said they didn't care for that.
You know, last year was harder, I think. Yeah, maybe it was the adjustment year, or this year a little bit.
Yeah, it's been very comfortable. I feel like the hotel has gone the extra mile to make improvements over the experience that we had
Oh,
last
really?
year.
Well, yeah, they haven't come and harassed us here, so.
Well, our check-in experience last year was brutal.
Oh, was it?
Really, really long. They didn't have enough check-in.
And they
people.
had, it was something on the 4th floor, didn't they?
Yeah, so this time we walked in and we were checked in within.
And I
15, 20
forgot to
minutes.
read that before I came over.
I think I'm
so-
finally remembering what floor each room is on.
I figured that out yesterday, I think, because I wasn't going to any of the things, so,
I
yeah.
think Sherry Martinez did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
I think she heard a lot of feedback from last year and
Okay.
did a lot to make the experience more community-driven. She was trying to create spaces for conversation.
Yeah,
They really
the fact
did
that the developer or the booths are all around where the food is, that's a really positive thing. It makes
Mhm.
for a lot more conversation and traffic in the booths. And,
Yeah.
And then all of the other, like the technical and the visionaries and stuff are all in the room, which is
Mhm.
conveniently located and stuff. So I think it worked out better than it did for sure last year.
But I'd love it to be in Hawaii next year.
Ah, okay,
Or
yeah.
Florida, as that's what I'm voting for, but.
Yeah. Well, I'll find out tonight, so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for coming by. It's really been a pleasure, and we have to talk some more. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Nick.
Nice to meet you.
Take care. Mhm.